Sonic and Tails have gone on numerous adventures together, and at this point, there's not much that can surprise them anymore. However, after a trip gone awry, they would find something that would totally shock them to their core, as well as meet some surprising characters from their past. Our story begins on a dark and stormy night. Sonic and Tails are in the tornado out at sea, trying desperately to find a place to land while the storm passes. Sonic looks down and calls out to Tails as he notices something. As they get closer, it appears to be the old Death Egg, which seems to have fallen to the sea after being destroyed. I just have to mention how this instantly made me think of Star Wars, with the remnants of the Death Star 2 being out at sea. Our heroes talk about waiting out the storm there, but before they can say more, the tornado gets struck by lightning, sending the two spiraling down toward impending doom. Sometime later, Sonic awakes and looks around all confused, as he is in a dark room encompassed with broken down and rusted over badniks. Sonic calls out to Tails to no avail, and leaps down from the table he found himself on, only to be surprised by a loud and painful clank coming from his foot. Looking down, Sonic noticed a metal contraption over his foot that almost resembled a makeshift cast. A strange beep leads Sonic over to a table. Picking it up, Sonic instantly realizes that it's Tails' device and gets a bit worried as he calls out to his two-tailed friend again. Sonic walks down the dark hallway, using only the light of Tails' device to guide his passage. The only comfort he has is his own thoughts. Walking down the hallway, he thinks about how lowly the Death Egg is currently, after once being Eggman's most powerful weapon. Calling out to Tails once again, we see that Sonic is being watched, but by who or what? Checking out a doorway with a warm glow coming from it, Sonic is greeted by a lonely sunflower floating in the capsule. But before he could get the chance to take a closer look at it, a screech drew him away, and with his back turned, we see that Sonic may not have been alone in that room. Wandering even further, Sonic finds a hangar, and within lies the egg carrier, looking very decrepit. Now, there's a good likelihood you'll remember this ship if you've played Sonic games before. Most notably, this was Eggman's main ship he used throughout the entirety of Sonic Adventure, and was also used throughout Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. As Sonic continues onward, something moves by him extremely fast, and it's at this moment that we see a rare sign of Sonic showing vulnerability, as he does seem rather spooked by this. However, he continues to investigate, and as he points the light toward the sound that rattled him, he sees that it's just an old beat-down badnik. But upon that realization, more and more old badniks begin to surround the hedgehog. Trying to back away slowly from the horde, Sonic bumps into something metallic. Looking up, Sonic finds himself face to face with the disheveled Mecha Sonic. This is a character that hasn't been seen in years, but if you've played Sonic and Knuckles, you'll surely remember this fearsome foe who gave a lot of trouble to our heroes. Being surrounded by enemies that Sonic would have rather left in his past, he decides to speed out of the Death Egg. But before he can build up enough speed, he feels a shooting pain in his ankle, which he assumes is a result of the crash with Tails from earlier. Leaping out of the room, Sonic bears through the pain, making it difficult to run through these hallways. The badniks follow in hot pursuit, and the only thing racing through Sonic's mind is finding Tails and getting out of this nightmare. Taking refuge in a capsule, Sonic catches a quick breath as Mecha scours the room for him. Sonic makes note that he's glad Knuckles isn't here to see him hiding, but interrupting his thought, Mecha Sonic peers through the glass. Using impressive speed, Mecha leaps on top of the capsule, opening it up. Sonic takes this opportunity to push the door of the capsule aside and use it to skate down the hallway while taunting Mecha, in a way that, of course, only Sonic does. It's because of this excessive taunting, however, that Sonic isn't aware of the robot waiting for him down the hallway. As he approaches its location, it grabs the door out from under Sonic, sending him tumbling as he comes face to face with the machine. To Sonic's surprise, Tails walks out from the robot. Seeing his buddy, Sonic gears up to fight his way out as the badniks draw in all around them. Tails quickly tells Sonic that there is no need because these badniks are rather friendly. He catches Sonic up on the situation, explaining that they prefer to be called Scrapniks and that they help take care of the two after the crash. The Scrapnik that sent Sonic Sonic tumbling earlier, says that his name is E117 Sigma. This means that this Scrapnik is part of the E100 series, which is the same line that Omega is part of. Sigma feels bad about scaring Sonic, as he explains that it was not his intention. Informing Sonic and Tails that the storm is over, he begins leading the two towards an exit. He then tells them that the crash was the fault of a malfunctioning climate disruptor that the Scrapniks have been unable to repair thus far. Sigma tells the two that until they are able to repair the tornado, they are more than welcome to make themselves home on Scrapnik Island. Upon seeing the beautiful outside, Tails wells up with tears and excitement. This is something that truly feels like a dream to Tails, to see and be part of a civilization made entirely from machines and scrap. Loving the enthusiasm, Sigma wants to show Tails around the place. Back to Sonic, Mecha is there standing next to him, and Sonic gives him a glare, which isn't surprising given the last encounter those two had. Sonic runs off towards Sigma and Tails as Mecha stares at him from a distance, when all of a sudden, something seemingly zaps inside Mecha's Sonic systems. Whatever did that messed with him pretty bad as he clenches his fist, and in the distance, staring at Mecha Sonic, is Mecha Knuckles. Issue 2 begins with a backstory on E117 Sigma. We see him washed up on the shore, next to the imposing ruins of the Death Egg. Jumping ahead some time, we see Sigma starting to repair other Scrapniks, building up a family of sorts. The group heads outside of the confinements of the Death Egg to find Mecha Sonic, who is completely destroyed. Jumping back to the present, Sonic appears to be resting in order to heal his ankle, while Tails is hard at work, finishing up a translator for the Scrapniks. This appears to really please them as they greet the two with words. Now, this reminded me a lot of the second Sonic movie where Tails used his device in order to translate, and we also see a similar situation in Sonic Colors, where Tails uses his device in order to communicate with the Wisps. Sigma approaches Tails and Sonic to inform them of the condition of the tornado, but Tails enthusiastically shows him his translator first. Mecha is looking at the device from a distance, and once again we see that something is going wrong with his internal systems. Sigma proceeds to inform the two that the plane could be repaired easily. However, the part that they need to fix is hard to come by. Sonic opts to go look for this part with Sigma and Mecha, but Tails questions this, since Sonic's ankle is still recovering. Sigma reassures Tails that Sonic will be fine, and leaves him with all the help he will need to start repairs on the tornado. As the trio head off for the part, Mecha Knuckles watches from afar. Making a quick detour before looking for the part, Mecha Sonic heads to the sunflower that Sonic had seen before. Sigma explains to Sonic that it washed ashore some time ago and that ever since, Mecha has cared for it, hoping that one day they will leave this island, no longer being in the shadow of Eggman. Sigma carries on leading Sonic, and they arrive at the egg carrier. Sigma explains that he had been working on this craft, hoping to repair it to the point where all the Scrapniks can leave on it someday. As they head closer to the carrier, Mecha Knuckles can be seen getting closer and closer as he has been following the group from a distance. Sigma tells the two that the integrated drive generator they need should be nearby. He hands Sonic a flashlight, and the two Sonics head off in search of the generator together. While the two are alone, Sonic takes the opportunity to apologize to Mecha for getting off on the wrong foot, and lets Mecha know that he is proud of him for changing his ways. As Sonic reaches out for a handshake with his former enemy, something alerts Mecha. He grabs Sonic and just barely avoids an attack from Mecha Knuckles. Sonic asks how many robot doubles are on this island as he prepares to do battle, but to his surprise, Mecha Sonic lifts him up and carries him away. At the same time, Sigma has found the part that they needed, when all of a sudden, the fight comes crashing through the door. Sigma doesn't seem to be alarmed about Mecha Knuckles being here and explains to Sonic that he is hostile due to his original programming, which Sigma diverted from protecting the Master Emerald to protecting the egg carrier. Sigma approaches Mecha Knuckles and asks him to stand down, trying to explain that Sonic is a friend to the Scrapniks. It seems at first like this might work, but then we see something go weird within his systems, causing him to snap and punch Sigma. Mecha Knuckles pushes the real Sonic to the side and barely dodges an attack from Mecha Knuckles. The two battle back and forth, exchanging blows with one another. A heavy hit from Mecha Knuckles scrambles Mecha Sonic's memories as he begins to see memories of Angel Island, hearing Sonic call him trash and being haunted by Eggman, who once called called him his greatest creation. As he relives being beaten by Knuckles, he snaps to, getting his bearings. Meanwhile, Mecha Knuckles heads towards Sonic, looking forward to executing his function. Mecha Sonic grabs him by the head before he can get any closer, and spin dashes on top of his body, leaving the machine an empty husk. Sonic goes in for a high five as he states the move he used might have been a bit overkill. As Mecha Sonic turns to face him, he charges, grabbing Sonic by the neck as he lifts him. After some time, we find Sonic restrained on the table. He talks to Mecha Sonic, exclaiming how disappointed he is, as he truly believed that Mecha had turned a new leaf. Mecha Sonic watches a display overhead that shows Tails and the other Scrapniks as they help rebuild the tornado. But what Mecha Sonic seems to really care about is Tails' device. Sonic breaks Mecha's concentration by asking about the contraption on his head. While looking back at Sonic, we see a Scrapnik who has found him captured, and at the sight of this begins to run back to alert the others. We then get a flashback, showing us the moment that Sigma was able to repair Mecha Sonic's systems, bringing him online. We cut to many different times on the island as Sigma tells Mecha that he will discover the new him on this island as well as find safety because now he is home. As the flashback ends, we see Sigma's systems come back online. As he reboots, he calls out for Mecha Sonic as well as the real Sonic, asking if the two are alright, but what he turns to find deeply saddens him. There on the floor below him, he sees the destroyed husk of Mecha Knuckles. Back with Tails and his little crew, the Scrapnik who found Sonic earlier finally arrives. He relays a recording of Mecha holding Sonic prisoner. Everyone seems shocked, and Tails heads over to some spare parts, breaking some off and placing some together. Revealing a weapon he was able to quickly build, he is now ready to save his best friend. Heading down the halls of the Death Egg, Tails and his crew track movement coming toward them. Now, I can only imagine that this is a reference to aliens, as they look like space marines using their motion trackers. The squad stops around the corner as the clanking of a robot gets closer and closer to them. They turn the corner, guns at the ready, only to find that it was Sigma carrying Mecha Knuckles' body. Lowering their weapons, they tell Sigma that Mecha Sonic is holding Sonic captive, and to his dismay, Sigma knows what is wrong. Looking saddened, Sigma tells Tails that Mecha Sonic's systems are very robust, and due to him not being proficient with reprogramming him, Mecha's old subroutines have kicked in. Just then, radio static kicks in over the radio and Mecha's voice comes in, telling the group that his mind has never been clearer. Suddenly, movement on the radar picks up till it's right on top of the group. He appears behind them, and Tails and his squad open fire on the rogue Scrapnik. Mecha manages to leap out of the way and tells them that they don't know what it's like to be discarded and forgotten. While hunting for Mecha down the halls, Sigma cries out, and when the rest turn around, all that is left is Mecha Knuckles' hat. The group begins to panic as Mecha Sonic begins to use his speed and stealth to pick them off one by one. Tails retreats down the narrow hallway and begins to formulate another plan before realizing he is the only one left, and at the other end of the hall is Mecha Sonic. As the two stare each other down, Mecha begins to rant about how hurt he is that Eggman never came back for him, letting Tails know that this will be a grave mistake for the Doctor. Tails asks what this has to do with him and Sonic then, to which Mecha replies he has plans for Sonic and only wants Tails' device. As Tails tells him to come and take it then, Mecha speeds down the hallway, dodging every shot that Tails fires. Closing in, he swats the gun out of Tails' hands, prompting him to use a spin dash. He manages to knock Mecha Sonic back a bit, but his strength proves to be too much as he slams Tails into the ground, ending the battle. Lifting him up, Mecha's bright red eyes stare into Tails as he tells him he will know what it's like to be forgotten, throwing him into the dark abyss of the Death Egg. Mecha comes back to where he is holding Sonic after defeating the fox. Sonic notices Tails' device, angering and worrying him as he lashes out at Mecha Sonic, who calmly replies that Tails is where he belongs. He then looks at Sonic and tells him that he'll be joining him shortly, and in the background we can see what Mecha Sonic is planning. It seems that the device he is constructing will allow him to switch bodies with the real Sonic. As terrified Scrapniks watch from the rafters, Mecha Sonic tells our hero about Eggman's old plans to control Badniks with his mind, but he ultimately got bored of this plan, deciding to ditch it. However, with the help from Tails' device, as well as Eggman's old one, the two should be able to swap bodies. Mecha tells Sonic that this egg carrier will never fly. However, with Sonic's speed, he should be able to get out of here by running across the water. Then, and only then, will he be able to exact his revenge on Eggman. Sonic asks about Mecha's friends like Sigma, to which Mecha replies, friends are a weakness, caused only by a glitch in his systems. Sonic calls him out and says he doesn't mean that, because we all know how much Sonic values his friends. Despite this, Mecha pulls a lever, activating the device. As it powers up, it seems that it might work, but the Scrapniks from the rafters jump down on top of Mecha Sonic in order to stop him from this madness. His machine blows up in the chaos of the attack, sending everyone flying. Kneeling in the ash and rubble of his device, Mecha becomes angered, telling the Scrapniks that they've ruined everything. He lunges out at the nearest few, telling them he will crush them. While distracted by a few Scrapniks, the others hurry to get Sonic free. Something, however, seems to be bothering Sonic. He notes fragments of someone else in his mind, someone carrying anger and sadness, and he realizes whose voice and memories it is. Mecha catches a Scrapnik, sending the helpless machine flying across the room. This angers Sonic, who immediately jumps into the fray. The two begin battling in the halls, matching each other's speed. Sonic monologues to himself about how badly his ankle hurts, and then hears Mecha's voice in his head. The two realize that the device somehow linked their minds. Mecha tells Sonic that he has reached his limit, but Sonic remarks that limits are supposed to be broken, and with that, he pushes through his pain to speed even faster ahead. As the battle ensues, Sonic finds an opportunity to strike, and he takes it, kicking Mecha Sonic square in the head. As he falls, a memory of him and the Scrapniks play out. Heading towards a furnace, Mecha Sonic tells Sonic to leave him, bearing his emotions to the Hedgehog. Having failed both directives that he has had in his life, he feels worthless and like trash, now only wanting to be swallowed up by the flames. Sonic tells him to cut the crap, and that in life, you determine your own purpose and value, as he reaches his arm out to him, telling him that is what it truly means to be free. Mecha reaches back before being fully engulfed in the scraps, but as Sonic begins to pull, he realizes that his foot is now too injured to move. Thankfully, at the last second, Tails and Sigma show up with the rest of the Scrapniks in order to pull the two out. Sigma and the rest of the Scrapniks hug Mecha Sonic, letting him know he isn't forgotten and he isn't trash. To them, he is family, bringing a tear to Sonic's eyes as he watches on. We jump some time forward and we see that Tails has finished reprogramming Mecha Sonic and Knuckles, so that they now are both completely free of Eggman's programming. They then head to the tornado, and Sonic and Mecha Sonic share a nice moment together before departing. With that, Tails and Sonic head off on the tornado for their next adventure. I really enjoyed this story. Seeing Mecha Sonic back after being gone for such a long time was really cool. His new design captivated me, and it gave me vibes from the Halo 5 trailer where Master Chief was wearing a poncho. I also loved all the nods to other films, or at least what seemed like references to me. So like things like the Death Egg, the Aliens, Marines, and Radar. And towards the end when Mecha Sonic was in the trash compactor heading towards the furnace, I couldn't help but draw a comparison to Toy Story 3, where Lotso throws everyone into a trash compactor and Woody and Buzz and all of them are holding hands as they, slowly head towards the furnace. So it really made me think of that. I would also say that IDW did a really good job of humanizing Mecha Sonic. You really start to feel for him when you see his flashbacks and how much pain he is going through and how he's trying to, find his place in the world and how he's really struggling with it, thinking that he's trash and always being down on himself. So I thought that that was good, but I also really enjoyed the introduction of E117 Sigma, and I'm honestly hoping that we see the Scrapniks again in the future, and hopefully, they'll be able to rebuild their egg carrier in order to escape the island and possibly join Sonic and his friends again in a future issue. But let me know what you guys thought of this comic down below, and let me know if you would like to see the Scrapniks return in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out my other breakdown of the bad guys here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope everyone is doing well. Peace.